Hello bass family and welcome to Everything Bass. I was just playing our Slap Groove 24 and it's just a really interesting approach that I gathered and learned by watching Larry Graham play early on. And just at times he'd do these really cool eighth note type grooves, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and there was always such a downbeat feel to him that I really liked it. So this one I created for you is in the key of G, and it's real simple. So let's just break it down. As you know, we break things down in small components. You master the small components, then the larger groove or pattern becomes much more accessible. How simple is the beginning? It's simply a full thumb and a pop. So G and octave, 3rd fret, 5th fret. And you let both notes be big. Now after that, for the rest of the measure, the thumb is going to be muted. So instead of being like this on downbeats, it's going to be 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So if you can get used to that aspect. And then on the pops, now it's really, the action for this first measure is just simply boo-da, 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 boo-da. There's no tricky double thumbs, there's no added percussion other than the muted thumbs. So it's really 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, which gives it a great feel, I think. Kind of this really cool, I mean, I've heard guys describe it as a disco sound, but I think that's limiting and sometimes has a negative connotation. Although I love bass playing during the disco era, was phenomenal. So here we go. So measure 1, you're going to go thumb, pop, wrist mute, the F on the 3rd fret, wrist mute, the C on the 3rd fret, wrist mute, and the D on the 5th fret. So you're kind of making this little, just looking at the pop notes, just kind of a little box shape. So that first measure slowly sounds like this. All right, let's speed up a little bit. And a little faster. Now I'm going to loop it a couple times, and this is just the first measure, but that allows you to play along and see how you do. So we'll go, and let me loop it. Simple little groove, has kind of a cool driving, funky kind of sound to it without a lot of syncopation. Now measure 2 starts exactly the same way. A full G thumb, a pop on the octave, then you wrist mute, a pop on the F. Now the only difference here is I wanted to add a little variation. Since it's so 8th note, I wanted to add some 16th notes hammer-ons. So I do a wrist mute and I pop the B flat to a B natural, or 3rd fret to 4th fret on the G string, wrist mute, and I pop an F to the G. Now those pop hammer-ons are 16 notes, so the timing would be just for those the beats 3 and 4. And you could isolate just that. Let's say you have the first part down and you're happy with it. Instead of trying to play that into the new part, just isolate the new part and get comfortable. Now put measure 2 together. Remember, it's just simply a thumb, pop, wrist mute, pop, wrist mute, hammer on, wrist mute, hammer on. Pop, hammer on, but it's hard to say that quickly. A little faster. Now let's do the entire thing, medium speed. So there's a couple simple ways you can add some variation and kind of improvise off of this idea. First of all, in just the basic 8th notes, you can pop anywhere around that. I mean, I was just basically using, and in my head, I'm thinking like minor pentatonic, or you could do mixolydian. If you're not familiar with those scales, just look through my channel. I've done individual videos on each one. The modes 5 mixolydian would be that one, and then if you just look for a video called minor pentatonics, and that'll teach you about those. Now, so let's talk about some of those the choices I made to kind of add a little flavor. The B flat to the B is a really cool device to use to add a little bit of blues flavoring to whatever line you're doing. Now, this is over a G dominant chord. In a lot of funk lines, you will use a minor third against a G dominant chord. Now, I know that you have the G dominant chord as a major third, but playing like as part of your slap line, emphasizing a minor third adds a little bit of this kind of cool street kind of tension to it that has become, meta, for a better lack of words. However, over a dominant chord, a cool bluesy thing you can do is play the minor third up to the major third. So it would sound like. So that's what I'm doing here. The minor third is B flat in G, the minor third is B flat. And I hammer on and resolve it to the major third, which is in the chord G dominant. So I add a little bit of tension and I release the tension, and that's where we get that. Now here, I'm just doing the minor 7 to the octave. So that fits the G dominant chord perfectly. So that's why I use those notes. Now, if you wanted to further improvise, a couple things you could do is you could change, of course, those 16th note hammer-ons. And you could just think of the scale Mixolydian, or, again, you could do minor pentatonic, and just, improvise up that G string. So it could, just really go through and try different tensions. Add chromatic notes in, but the advice I give you is pop the chromatic note, the note that's not in the scale or in the chord, and resolve it to a note that's in. Don't do the opposite. Don't pop necessarily, unless you're going for some kind of really interesting vibe, but don't pop the note that's resolved, a chord tone or a solid scale tone, and hammer on to a chromatic. You're taking it from resolution to non-resolution, or you're taking it from release, consonance to dissonance, tension. And that's not usually the way it works. But again, I never want to put limitations. If you do it and you like it and it gets a good response from your audience, then yeah, go for it. Share it so I can learn from it. Yeah, so take this as just the first domino and start improvising. Change keys, go through a progression. So you might play in G to C, A, B. And so you can come up with progressions taking this simple pattern and applying it to it. As always, if you're a visual learner like myself and you want to see things written out in both standard notation and tab, it's easily attainable by following the link in the description below for my Patreon account. For just $8 a month, you actually can get access to all my written materials. For any video that has got any kind of support materials, whether it be written or a WAV file that's a play-along file, those are all you can download once you pay the $8 a month. And I've had guys, and this is totally cool, it's a resource, but I've had guys just subscribe for the month, download everything that's currently available, and then cancel subscription. That's actually fine. I'm really doing it as a service, and however it works for you and your pocketbook and your budget is fine with me. All right, so that's Slap Groove 24. I really am anxious to kind of hear what you guys think of this particular groove, this 8th note groove, and how you improvise with it. We have a real active Facebook page, Everything Bass with Dale Titus. Just search that on Facebook. And if you could just take a cell phone video of how you took this basic pattern and improvised with it, and then share it with us, man. Share it with your family. It's a really supportive network. We don't put up with any shenanigans, no negative talk, no politics, nothing other than how great is our bass family. So I'd love to see what you've done with this particular pattern or any of the other patterns that I've shown you. Man, thank you so much. It would do me a great honor if you could subscribe to my channel. We're getting so close. At time of recording, we're only 40 members away from hitting the $1,000 mark. But in the very least, if you could just give me a thumbs up for this video and share it with maybe another bass player so we can grow the community, that would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll see you at the next video.